this thing's on. Is this thing on? Hello? Trying to bring up the chat. Give me a second. Aha. Hello. All right. Chat is open. Things are going. Things are going well. During the when was it? The Get Off My Lawn live stream, I managed to sort about half the darts, which is approximately 54 gallons of darts. It's actually a little less than half, but it's pretty close. Bins! Where are my sorting bins? I've lost my bins. Lost! Lost the bins. The bins are gone. I have found the bins. Alright, well, looks like this was originally a full dart bin, but unfortunately, folks just poured collected darts in on top of it, rather than putting them in the hampers so that I wouldn't have to sort the whole tote, but apparently I didn't make that clear. So, the top bit is going to be mostly full-length darts. Anyway, it's Friday, and it's delightful. How is everyone this fine Friday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are, or morning, depending on where you are? I don't know where you are. Anybody have any good Nerf events coming up this weekend? There was going to be one this weekend. It got rescheduled to next weekend. And that's the one that's down in Springfield. A couple of people have asked me about it because I've mentioned this event I'm going to in Springfield. And they're like, what event in Springfield? Well, it turns out it's a private event. Invite only. And they're full. So... what do we got going on? How many wooden darts would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood darts? Well, a woodchuck would chuck all the wooden wood darts that a woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wooden darts. Oh, how did you get in there? This is the good thing about sorting through the entire bin of darts, is I find the errant of FVJs and Vauberries that have snuck in and somehow managed to avoid detection. Also helps me find dead darts and get them removed, because they happen. So working on a set of mods for the AIT 40 Max. Very cool. Yesterday, I did the first upgrades on my Vesper. I got the Gavin Fuzzy B car installed, and it is lovely. I did look into whether or not it would be possible to reverse the hotshot button so it would be more left-hand friendly, and unfortunately, it's not. It is the switch that it activates is in fact soldered onto a board that cannot be easily reversed. So I'm just gonna have to live with it, which I'm okay with. Another one. Mulberries for days in here. Da-da-da-da. Ooh, mango and peach soggy leaf water. Can't go wrong there. I don't... Not that I'm aware of. That was a feature of the Lightning, which is made by a completely different company than the Vesper and the Diana. So, I don't think that is a tech path that HC has started to go down yet, but you never know, they might in the future. But for now, as far as I'm aware, no, it doesn't have Bluetooth or Wi-Fi like the Lightning does. Printed the Marshmallow Blast replacement barrel. Oh, yeah. I think I had a Marshmallow Blaster 3D printed front end somewhere from days gone by. Good luck! If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I don't know that I'll be of any use, but you're always welcome to ask. We're getting through the layer of full-length darts and getting down to rival and half darts coming up. After all of this, I have 2 more full laundry hampers to go through. I don't know how much I'm going to get through tonight. I don't even know when our next event... I don't think our next event is for another 2 months, so we've got lots of time, but... You know, get it done now and I don't have to worry about it later. Plus, you know, sorting darts on a Friday evening. What could be more fun? Ah, some mega. Yes, I did find a can of the Slice root beer when I was in Phoenix, actually. And like so many other pro and prebiotic root beers, it would be good if it wasn't sugar-free. It has a good, rich root beer flavor, and then the chemical flavor just hits you, and it just... Ugh. Nasty, nasty aftertaste. Which was also very disappointing about the rebirth of Slice soda in general, because I remember Slice from when I was a kid, and we had Orange Slice was the main. There was Crush and there was Slice and Sunkiss, and I remember it. And when I opened a can of the Orange Slice and smelled it, it smelled like childhood, just floods of memories of old picnics and school events and barbecues with that particular flavor of orange, and then you taste it and it tastes like chemicals, and it's like, ah, my childhood taken out and beaten with a stick. If I were to sort my darts, I would be there all day because I cannot sort my ammo for the life of me. The cat is better than me and sorts darts better because I'm lazy. Well, for me, sorting darts is very cathartic. It's organization. It's order out of chaos. It's calming. It's simple. It's repetitive. I don't have to think very much. Especially these loner dart bins, because there's basically 5 categories: full length darts, half darts, mega, mega XL, and rival. Every once in a while, something weird shows up, an N1 dart or something like that. But for the most part, it's just those 5 categories, and they're very, say, a random N1 dart. It's just those 5 major categories, and Mega and Mega XL are few and far between. We did have somebody running a Mastodon at this last event, and so there is more Mega XL or Mega that went into play than usual. Like enough that we ran out. Which doesn't usually happen. We had a couple of people running Mega XL, but they were running it off of like master keys, so they were firing one at a time and didn't end up using a whole lot of it. Hicks! How you doing? How are we all doing? The sun has come out here in the Pacific Northwest. It's a nice day out, but I'm still here sorting darts. Because it needs to be done. Once upon a time, we had a big collective dart sorting at the end of events. But that was about 50 gallons ago. There's a lot more than there used to be. And if we did it at the events, I wouldn't get to do these streams. A week of drywall. That sounds productive, if nothing else. Rewarding. What? For my personal darts, the darts that I have here in the shop, I've got them sorted to a much more granular degree. Like the different kinds of full-length darts are sorted separately, and the different kinds of half darts are sorted separately. But for the loner, it's all just tossed in together. Got 3 Nerf reactors. I might have to hide along with a Nerf buzzsaw. Why? Who's gonna off you for Nerf reactors? Is there somebody after Nerf reactors? No, never got any snow here. Never even got any hail, any sleet. There wasn't even. It didn't even get particularly cold. I know the Seattle area, the Tacoma area, they got hit with just some nasty slushy snow. We didn't get it down here. Usually we get 1 week of snow every year. It snows once, takes a week to thaw, to melt. Did not get that this year. Yes. A rule of thumb on the Pacific Northwest, and it may have changed over the years, but do not trust spring until at least May 10th. Don't let a particularly warm March or April day fool you. May 10th. Yep. The gnome would always get a chuckle out of everyone in her home, or her where she lives. First nice day of the year, everyone goes out and plants their gardens thinking hooray, spring is here, and then 2 days later it frosts and kills everything they planted. And they do it every year. Eternal optimists, I suppose. Gluttons for punishment, maybe. This is fair. As wild as the weather can get around here, we don't have much in the way of true extremes. We don't get hurricanes much here in the Pacific Northwest, or rather, since it's the Pacific, we'd get typhoons rather than hurricanes. But we don't get those. We supposedly have earthquakes, but I've been here for 10 years and I've never felt one. We don't get tornadoes. We do get some flooding, but not as bad as, like the Mississippi Delta. As far as I know, the gnome is doing well. She is taken to retired life. Family is planning to come out here to visit for Easter. And that'll be nice. She would like to get out of Idaho, and I don't blame her. I've certainly never looked back. Favorite dart brand? Do you mean of dart or blaster? For the most part, I still favor Adventure Force just because it's cheap and available. For blasters, I'm a big fan of Worker. Though Dart Zone is putting up a darn good show, and X-Shot is pulling its weight. Vintage. My friend, anything made after the turn of the millennia is not considered vintage. But yes, there are a lot of waffle heads. There's a lot of elite darts in here. There are a lot of weird stuff. Ooh, another mega. The waffle heads have held up surprisingly well over the years, despite all the use they get. They were well made. I don't generally wash the darts. Sometimes if they get really bad... Ooh, what happened? What did I hit? Apparently I launched Teams somehow on accident. Where is the mouse? Am I still alive? Yeah. We have had events where it rained and darts got really muddy and I'll hose them down. But for the most part, they... Just getting tumbled together tends to clean off most of the biggest debris. One advantage of occasionally having to sort the entire tote is I can then get all of the debris off out of the tote. I am currently not planning to go to Survival Fest. I went last year, and I want to alternate events because there's just too many, and I don't want to get into the habit of just always attending the same events every single year and neglecting other events. So, I wasn't planning to go to Maryland Mayhem, wasn't planning to go to Survival Fest, but I am planning to go to RAG. So, RAG and Mall Madness will alternate years. We'll see what other events I manage to get to. Obviously, travel is becoming increasingly expensive. What with the world being the way it is. But there are events I've been invited to in the past, but wasn't able to make it to because I was either attending Maryland or Survival Fest, and so couldn't go to Colorado or Utah or Wisconsin. There is an event in Wisconsin I intend to go to, both because it sounds like a really cool event, and because I've yet to nerf in Wisconsin, and because the event is only an hour away from the Root Beer Museum. One can hope. RAG is a good event, and it's probably going to be a pretty big one this year because we've lost Maryland Mayhem. So if you want to go to a big HVZ, big invitational with all of the vendors and all of the pomp and circumstance of a really well-run event, this year you've got RAG or Survival Fest. Survival Fest doesn't have the PvP tournament or the casual tournament. It just has HVZ and the vendor con. So, if you want an event that has it all, I think End War might still have it all, and then RAG has delayed our plans. Why on earth are you suddenly making noise? Behave yourself. Fair. Gotta have certain priorities. Hopefully they will shift the weekend enough. How am I doing? So far, so good. I slept fairly well. Work went well. It's a lovely day now, and I'm sorting darts and talking to you fine folk. Yeah, it's been noted more than a few times that there is a disproportionate number of Nerf tubers and Nerf vendors in the Pacific Northwest. We've got Silver Fox, X Fox, out of darts. Brett used to be up here, but he's gone to the East Coast. But we do still have Walcom is up here. I'm up here. The Nerf Curator, Luchathor. King of Games is up here now. It's a nice place to be for Nerf. And we're getting more and more events. So the Pacific Northwest Nerf Club, Panic, which I'm one of the moderators for, we run a series of events. There is also Waffle, the competitive group. Further north, another club has formed, the Washington Nerf Club. They now host events. So, oh yeah, Flux. Can't forget Flux. We have another whole bunch of clubs. There's also clubs further south, down in Oregon, that do stuff as well, which was always the goal, was to build up more clubs so that we weren't the only people running events and we didn't have to run every event. So I am looking forward to attending the event down in Springfield. That's a private event that I was invited to. I'll be traveling with Out of Darts, and we will be running amok. Vespers all around. We're going to leave, take no prisoners. We can't quite do year-round. It gets real cold and damp here, which isn't fun for outdoor Nerf. But we've started getting more indoor venues, so we now do Nerf all year round. It's just not all outdoors. The Lloyd Center gave us access to an indoor venue where we play in a... Pardon me, I may have to go yell at my neighbors. Pardon me. My extraordinarily trashy neighbors recently moved out, but apparently they left their kids. I'm not sure what's going on there. But one of them decided that right now was a good time to throw rocks at the side of my shop. And people wonder why I don't have kids. Pretty much! Yep, I had to go yell at him. Yeah, I seem to have left them with the other less trashy neighbors, but yeah, there you go. I think I'm about to be invaded. No, I am currently filming. Well, technically, I'm currently live streaming, so no. Shoo. An urchin I don't recognize with a cat has shown up. It's weird. I'm hoping I will manage to get some cleaning done. I recently acquired an entire Nerf collection from somebody, and I have yet to get it fully sorted and stored. It's piled up in my shop. Message redacted! How could you? Ominous train noises. Will we ever see Tyr versus the Moab? Eventually. I need to muster up the motivation to load the Moab's belt again. It takes an hour to load and 10 seconds to empty, and that's just not a good use of time. But I do eventually want to do that video just because it's interesting. They're very different systems, obviously. Tyr holds a lot more ammo. The Moab has a higher rate of fire. Tyr, I think, has more range. Tyr also has a rocket launcher built in, which the Moab does not. Man down. So I heard about that. I heard someone was designing an autoloader, which would be pretty cool, but I assume you would have to load the autoloader, so I don't know how much time it would save you. Unless it is able to, if you can just pour darts in the top and it can sort them. What is peak masculinity? Me sorting darts or me yelling at neighbor kids? What are we talking about? Take the links to an event and sell selfies. I could probably just bring links and just, ask people to load them and they would just do it for fun. It's fun for the first 100 links and then it starts to get tedious. Yeah, it is kind of sad that I never got around to getting a self-targeting blaster built. They've been done, and the technology is not that hard or expensive to get these days. I've had a motion sensor one. It just wouldn't track. I did have one where that was given to me a long time ago. No! I've been disconnected. What's going on? Hello? Am I still there? My vibe. Well, I appreciate it, because I don't know if I'm still live. Am I still live? Can anybody tell? It says I'm still streaming. Hooray! Okay. I got a message that OBS had disconnected and reconnected. I wasn't sure how much of a hiccup that was going to cause. Hooray! Down to the last of the full lengths. Do I? Shouldn't. I should have good internet out here. I'm wired to fiber. Shame. Shame. Could just be you. Audio is out of sync? Give me a second. Out here. I'm wired to fiber. Shame. Shame. Could just be you. Yeah, looks fine to me. I think it's just you. You considered that perhaps you are out of sync. Dump! Yeah, that was probably OBS disconnecting on me. Who knows? Lovely, lovely. I don't know if you're here, but somebody during the Get Off My Lawn live stream mentioned that they've come up with a new game type called Hungry Hungry Hippos, which is very similar to our standard game that we call either Yeet Ball or Carpe, where you're trying to gather balls, but their plan is to play it with 4 teams instead of 2. We usually play with 2 teams and the balls are in buckets. This time we'll be playing it with 4 teams, which we already have everything to do. I have 4 different team pennies, so that's not an issue. And we'll probably dump the balls out instead of having them in a bucket, so they're a little bit spread out. We'll see how that works. Yeah, there you go. The kids throwing rocks took out the internet, despite the fact that it's wired. I believe it. Maybe they were particularly magnetic rocks. Who knows? We should really sit down. Our mod team should maybe sit down and try to come up with some really new, interesting games. We've been playing more or less the same games for the last 10 years, give or take. Every once in a while we come up with something new. The downside is, you know, if you try something new with a large group of people and it doesn't work out, then you've wasted a lot of time. Whereas if you stick with games you know are fun and you know how to run and you know are balanced and whatnot. But every once in a while, you know, maybe not try to introduce all new games, but introduce one new game every event, just to avoid stagnation. Alright. Any more full lengths in here? Lingering. Alright, looks like I got all the full lengths. Now we can start on the rival. We had a decent amount of people running, well, we had a number of people running rival. We had one person running a Nemesis, one person running a Prometheus, and a fair number of people picked up the Artemises as loner blasters. I think there was somebody running a Challenger, whatever the rival strife they came out with a big banana mag. There's somebody running one of those. A couple of people are running Chronoses. We had one person running a knockout. Or no, a takedown. They're running a takedown. And were very successful. Rival is just, it's best indoors. Where the wind can't affect it and it can really get full effect of its range. See how much Rival wandered off. We used to have a lot of trouble with people filling up their hoppers from our loner bucket and then leaving with their hoppers still full. And so we'd end up coming back with far less Rival than we started with. And Rival is a lot more expensive. Half darts and full length darts just show up, but Rival wanders off. Marco YOLO. One person is blindfolded and people can only move around for 5 seconds before Marco is called. Person blindfolded can do melee or short run around times. That would work I can see that working in a confined area. We play in a massive park and that would perhaps not work so well. But finding games that work in small areas is also something that is a very good thing to be thinking about, because not everybody has a large area to play in, and so having a repository of games that work well in small areas is something I hadn't really considered. It also sounds like a game that would work really well with smaller groups. Might not be the best game for if you're running 80 people. If you're running 10 people, that would work. Yeah, Vortex suffered in the wind as well. Vortex is fun though, especially indoors where ricochets count, which every club I've ever played in has unanimously agreed Vortex ricochets count. Outdoors, if there's no wind and you get good... Oops, that's the wrong bin. You get good at it, you can curve the discs. By angling them, you can get them to fly around cover. I've seen people that were really good at shooting around cover with Vortex. A lot of very confused people suddenly get hit with a Vortex disc in the side of the head when they had complete cover and just step out from behind the tree going, "What?" It's interesting that you say you haven't run Rival in a while. I remember when Rival first came out and the big capacity blasters hit the mark. The Nemesis first came out, and everyone was howling about how this is going to completely change the game, and no one's going to use darts. It's just going to be all high capacity Rival, and it's just going to be streams of balls, and then that absolutely didn't happen because it turned out Rival doesn't have anywhere near the range that half darts do, and so you want to run high capacity Rival and just hose the field. Somebody with a Striker or a Nexus or a Caliburn or whatever is gonna plink you from halfway across the field, long out of your range. So you got to get your own high powered folks, long range folks to cover you so you can get close, and teamwork. It's good. How do we still have cut down AccuFakes? You get the drafted deploys and see how long you can survive. You know, Awful's rounds are fun. Alright. Coming up on the end of the rival. Strife. Interesting. That is always a significant concern. Making sure your blaster can run whatever. If you're expecting to have to scavenge darts. If you're not expecting to, if you brought enough darts to make it through the whole game, then it's not an issue. But if you're expecting to have to scavenge, making sure your blaster can fire anything is important. And it's an engineering feat sometimes, because there's a lot of different darts out there. Which, one of the issues anytime somebody asks, what's the best dart? Well, the one that works best in your blaster. There is no one best dart. There is no one dart that works better in everything. There are some worse darts, but with all the different kinds of half darts now, different weights, different densities, different head designs, you gotta get the one that works for you. What do you mean no half darts then? Or they just didn't allow them then? A lot of HVZs are slow to get with the times, and often that isn't their fault. They're limited by the restrictions handed down from the administration of their school. And so sometimes, rather than blacklists of things, they've got white lists of things, and if it's not on the list, you can't use it. We ran into that issue with darts at an event. There were AccuStrike darts were brand new, and so one of the clubs that had to whitelist everything hadn't whitelisted AccuDarts yet, and so we couldn't use them. Terrain! Where did you get your orange boonie? I got mine on Amazon. My orange camo boonie is from Amazon. And it has served me well. I wore it across Europe twice. Yeah, Protean is generally pretty good. My FDL is not particularly picky. My Pew Pew is surprisingly not particularly picky. I would have expected it to be pickier. I don't know that I've ever tried running much wide head stuff, cut down Adventure Force or AccuFakes through it. Pretty reliably run small head half darts through it, but I haven't found one that it just hates. I did discover at Mole Madness my FDL did not like some of the newest full-length darts. And I don't know if that was the FDL as much as the magazine. Just the heads were rubbing on each other and sticking in odd ways that I'd never seen with the Adventure Force waffles that I usually run in it. But those are getting harder to find around some places. Hello, Mech builds it. Good. Fly core. See, the way the lack of punctuation in Mexi Build It's question suggests that he has made a Flycore Xavier, as in a blaster called Xavier, which that would be neat. I don't think I've had a blaster named after me. There's a lot of gravel in my dart bin. What's going on there? I am having fun. I'm getting down to the bottom here. Just looking for dead darts. Try to find them when I can. And going through it a handful at a time. So I can find the gravel. There's an odd amount of gravel in the bottom of this bin. And I wouldn't want that going into a blaster. Ooh, job at a injection mold factory. There's some skills I wouldn't mind having. My Instagram is Captain Xavier Nerf. Pretty sure it's in the description of all my videos, I think. Do you have a World War II? I do. I have a couple, actually. I have the Flycore one that looks like a Sten, I think it is. No, Bren gun. I have the Nerf equivalent of a Bren gun, and I have the Soldier 76 that looks like an MG. MP40. Alright. We've been through 27 gallons. That was 27 gallons of darts. And I'm gonna keep going. I got a little bit more to do. And I've got another tote hamper that big again. There is no age limit on having fun. If you still enjoy doing it, keep doing it. I suspect the vast majority of people that get belligerent about Nerf are people who were told they had to give up the things they enjoy. And they're angry and jealous at us for not having been forced to do that. And I can understand their anger. That would be very frustrating. No, there will not be Fort Borst in April. The first Fort Borst event will be in May. I can actually look up, I think I can look up the date. I may have remembered to put it on my calendar. I may not have. I should do that. I have not. Let me check the Panic Discord. Oh, I was wrong. Our next event is, in fact, April 25th. April 25th is the next Borst. That will be the first Borst event of the year. Yes, but children under the age of 10 are still made out of rubber. They bounce. They do not feel pain. Planning on building a Strife. I'm curious what lipo is best for 120, 125 FPS. Is it possible to put a SCAR or B-car on a Strife? So it doesn't come down to just the battery. It's going to come down to what motors you're running, what wheels you're running, what cage you're running, and then what battery you run. All of those things combined are what ultimately determine your FPS. So there are websites and charts, and people have done the math on figuring out what motor, cage, wheel, battery combinations produce what performance. I do not have it memorized. Just the options that Out of Dart sells, at one point there were 10,000 different motor, wheel, cage combinations. So there is no way to have memorized or even tested them all. If you're going for semi-automatic, you can get away with 2S builds a lot easier, which are going to be your Michelle 2 motors, your Valkyrie motors, your Fang revamps. Or no, Valkyries are 3S. So your Michelle 2 motors and your Fang revamps are going to be your 2S motors, which can get you down that low, again, depending on what wheels and cage you use. But you'll need to do some research. Carrot darts. That sounds unpleasant. Um, beard tips. Well, mine just grows, and I wash it, and occasionally remember to trim it. I don't use any specific beard product. I probably should. I've been sent and given things like beard oil, but I'm not gonna wear beard oil when I'm just around my house, and I'm not gonna wear beard oil when I go to a Nerf event. I'm gonna get all sweaty and. I haven't had an occasion that called for beard oil, unfortunately. Some people say that the more you shave, the more it grows. I've also heard that that is an urban legend, an old wives' tale. I think it's just the longer you're alive, the thicker it gets, and so. They were shooting carrots out of a hammer shot. That's a life choice, I suppose. Is that what the beard oil's for? The skin underneath? Well, still haven't had an occasion to need the skin under my beard oiled in a very long time. Why is there a sock? Oh no, this is a headband. I'm a zombie! Meh. Yeah, I'll bet it gets toweled off. Never trust a zombie, and never be a trustworthy zombie. No, I'm a terrible zombie. I'm old and slow. I've got bad knees and a bad back. Are saber T darts the best? The best at what? The best for what? The best out of what? Define best. We covered this earlier. There is no best. I'm sure there are blasters that the T darts work beautifully out of, and I will guarantee you there's a blaster out there that they don't work well in at all. So it all comes down to matching your blaster, the darts, to your blaster. I've heard they're good. I've also heard they're expensive. So I'd hope they'd be good. Otherwise, you're getting ripped off. I am not the expert when it comes to that because I don't play comp.
My autistic neighbor went in your house.
Well, get him out of it.
He's like 5 years old.
Pardon me, I have a home invader. I'm back. Hello. Oh, what a miss! What a miss! Well, I turned 43 a few weeks ago, and I'm definitely not spry, so I've got nothing for you. Nuts, berries, and avocado. Mostly, keep moving. If you sit still too long, everything freezes up. Technically, most of them were here before I got here, so I don't think they qualify as an invader. I've been here long enough. I see what you did there. How dare you? How dare you? I love it. And I fell for it. Yes, we are all invader here. Ha, 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 ha. All right. Yes! There's actually a Moose Point 1 and 2 in the background. And a mammoth over there. They should get into yoga. Probably do wonders for my back. Ah! Wrong bin. There's a swordfish in the background of my video. My swordfish is over that one, I think. Got a Dominator in the background. Or a Dominator. Dominator in the background. You don't have a 3D printer. Well, that is a tragedy. You should do something about that. They're incredibly useful. Especially in this hobby. We make so much stuff with 3D printing. Which is good and bad. It's great for rapid prototyping, and as fast as we develop new stuff, pretty much everything's a prototype. People come out with new blasters every other day, it feels like. Well, there you go. Yeah. If you don't have a printer, somebody does. Just be sure to buy them filament. I've lost count. My bamboo made them all obsolete. Maybe I'll take them to Borst and start just giving them away. Yeah, that's the thing about tools. Good tools are expensive, but Lord, do they pay for themselves real quick. What's this I hear about bamboos catching fire? Is that a thing I need to worry about? Sure. Rub the fact that you're in a happy relationship in my face. See if I care. What? 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 It's getting weird in here, man. back. Nice, nice. Yeah, spring is coming. Faster to some places than others. A beautiful day here today. You miss Pacific Northwest. Where are you now and when were you here? Here in the Pacific Northwest, Mr. J.M. Garotti. Hey, we have 4 seasons. We have too hot, wet, wet and cold, wet again, and then too hot again. Okay, yeah. Reasonably certain I've passed through Eugene on my way to somewhere interesting. Yes. It is damp in the Pacific Northwest because it's a rainforest. A temperate rainforest, but a rainforest. The downside, the real downside to all the damp is that everything mildews. I had a pair of scissors mildew. How do scissors mildew? No Nerf events in Missouri. What do you mean there's no Nerf events in Missouri? That's where Mall Madness is. What part of Missouri are you in? is a... Yeah, I was going to say, there is a thriving Nerf community in the St. Louis area. Your ignorance of the truth does not negate it, sir. There is Nerf in Missouri. You just haven't found it. And that is both partly on you and also on the community because we're lousy at advertising. We are atrocious at making ourselves known. Apparently Columbia also has a club. Yeah, Frag Society. That's the one. Look them up. Find them. Go Nerf with them. Clearly not everywhere. I don't know where you were looking, but you weren't looking where the info was. Yeah, Frag Society. There's a good chance if you go to the Out of Darts website, they've got a decent map of where clubs and events are. Someday, I've been told by increasingly unreliable sources, someday the World Foam Alliance will have a website that clubs can register at and people can find by going to there. We haven't gotten it built yet. Yeah, Mall Madness is every other year because that's how long it takes you to recover. Or especially, that's how long it takes the moderators to recover. But it is my favorite Nerf event that I regularly attend. I agree. I despise Discord with a fiery passion. It was not designed for what we're trying to use it for, and it's not good at it, and it's not searchable, as far as I know. With Facebook, you could go on Facebook and type in, Washington Nerf Club, and you might actually find something. But you're not going to find a Discord. It is not a necessary evil. It's just an evil. The only thing I reliably use Discord for is for what it was meant. For group chat when playing video games. That's what it was designed for. That's what it's good for. It's horrible for trying to organize a club, for trying to run an event. It doesn't have a good calendar feature. It doesn't have file sharing. It doesn't have a lot of stuff. Oh, the World Foam Alliance website has been in the works, for years now. The thing is, the World Foam Alliance is non-profit. We don't have any money, and web development is expensive. So, it just keeps not getting finished. The main goal of the whole organization was being a place that people could go to find other Nerfers. And so we wanted to build a website where you could go and register your club, and people could then go and search what's the nearest club to me, have it searched by zip code or whatever. And it just hasn't been built. Just keep talking about it. Someday. Someday, maybe. Yeah, that's my big gripe with Discord is it's constant. It's a constant stream, and there's no way to keep up with it unless you are just always on it, and I'm never on it. It is useful as a tool for doing group calls. I mean, we do our moderator meetings on Discord, and that works. And we have a dedicated thread of what are we going to talk about in the next meeting, and that's about the only things I keep track of anymore, and I barely keep track of those. I should be doing better, but I don't. Anyway, this is me being a grumpy old man. This is some get off my lawn nonsense, and I admit that. If they could bring back Nerf Haven without bringing back the incredible toxicity that had permeated it, I would be all for it. When I first got into the hobby, the online Nerf community was a cesspool of elitists and gatekeepers, and it was weird. And I'm glad that has died down a lot. You missed my Discord rant. And I am too old to fully understand and appreciate Discord, and so I shake my fist at it. Do I have the fly point pistol? I don't think so. No. I never hit any of Shellington's shell ejecting blasters. Never. There's a time and place for shell ejecting, and in my opinion, that wasn't it. Shell ejecting is great in things that can, if the shells are big enough to hold multiple ammo types. So if they can either fire multiple darts at once, or if they can fire big darts, then I can see a place for shells. So I'm a big fan of the silly shell ecosystem. The Stagecoach and the Breacher. I like those, and I have both of those. Yeah, you'd think people would recognize that being named Discord, perhaps there's going to be a lot of chaos. I did the whole Discord thing, I created the online community, it was done badly, and it ended badly, and I have a great many regrets around it. But I am free of it now. I was given a sock. Let's see. Yeah, the big silly shell blasters are not inexpensive. If you have a printer, you can print it yourself, but they're also dense. That's why they're good. If they were lighter and didn't have as much filament, they would break under the amount of power they have. Though there are smaller blasters that take silly shells. I've got a double-barreled silly shell pistol that's pretty epic. The silly shell does seem to have taken off better than the Spring Thunder shell. It was also fairly versatile. It wasn't big enough to take Mega XL, but it was developed before Mega XL existed. The silly shell was developed after Mega XL, so they made sure that it was compatible. What are we doing? Working our way through. Da, 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 da. Was I a Buffy fan in my younger days? I just heard Nicholas Brendan Xander passed away today. Oh, did he? Xander passed away. So did Chuck Norris just passed away. I had watched a fair amount of Buffy. I had a friend who was a huge fan of it and had it all on DVD, so I borrowed it. Never made it all the way through. The character of Buffy just got too dumb for my case. By the last season that I watched, which I think was maybe season 5, whenever she walked into the room, I just fast forwarded, and it turns out she was in no way integral to the plot, which is somewhat alarming. You got all the necessary exposition from the Scooby Gang, as it were, and then she just showed up and punched everything, and that was that. Yeah, when she died for the second time, I decided I was done. Like, oh, Buffy's dead. Show's over. Oh well. So we're like, there's more. Like, nope. She died once. That was ridiculous. She died again. I'm done. We'll just leave it at that. Don't need to see her get resurrected again. Can you blame him? Can you blame Chuck Norris for noping out right now? Apparently he decided God had some explaining to do and has gone to have a word with him. Maybe he will get this all sorted out. Yeah. No, I agree. Somebody argued that the golden age of Nerf, of Hasbro's line, was the 2009-2010, which, if I'm remembering correctly, that would be N-Strike Elite. And yeah, that was peak the Strife, the Rapid Strike. That was definitely the golden age when they ushered in the modern age of foam flinging. Kind of started there. The next big leap in our hobby was the Caliburn. The Caliburn changed everything. The fact that you could now have accurate, high-powered, long-range, that was something that people had achieved by building long shots, but we'd kind of reached the limit of the long shot. The plunger tube was only so big, the geometry was only so good. With the Caliburn and 3D printing and all of that engineering, the doors were just opened to everything, and the world changed. But N-Strike Elite was definitely peak. I've always been partial to the comment that under his beard, Chuck Norris does not have a chin, he has another fist. And the fact that in the Expendables 2, I think, he shows up just playing himself, basically, and makes a Chuck Norris joke, which that is the kind of fan service that we appreciate. That is I love it when people know their own memes. When people know what their fandoms love and embrace it rather than fighting it. Ian McDiarmid is aware that do it is a thing. And so whenever he has the opportunity or whenever that phrase comes up in conversation, he always does it in his Palpatine voice. It's just fabulous. Sean Bean was in several Vines from Lord of the Rings jokes and Game of Thrones jokes. Either, someone's like, hey, Sean, let's do a Vine. One does not simply make us a 5-second video. And winter is coming. No, that's rubbish. Winter is coming. Who was that? Good times. Good stuff. Everyone else, what are yours? Okay, so I was about a generation off. Yes, the era of the Stampede and the Barricade, that was when I joined. That was when I got into the hobby. The Stampede had just came out. I just graduated. I went and bought it with money I didn't have. And it's all been downhill from there. That is ultimately what led me to where I am today. For better or for worse. Chuck Norris can slam a revolving door. I like that. Is this the help desk? Sure. What's your question? I'll see if I can help. Well, that's awkward. The winner of the Bird Deaths to Stones Thrown Championship is undoubtedly the meteorite that took out the dinosaurs. Yes, I've always been a fan of the fact that the dart tag blasters came in orange and green. They also had ones in red and blue, so you know. All the bases are covered. I would love to get back into video series. I definitely need to get a regular schedule for uploads again. I never did finish the loadouts series, the escalating loadouts. I would like to get back into that. The general loadout series, I would love to get back into that. I'd like to get back into K26. There was some talk of working with Out of Darts, since they now carry a lot of specific spring upgrades. Expanding it to, if it can't take a K26, here's a spring from Out of Darts that will work, and what performance will it do? Kind of thing. Especially since there are fewer and fewer blasters nowadays that can take K26, because a lot of the high-powered stuff takes skinny springs, or, you know, more specific spring sizes. And pretty much all of your high-powered blasters aren't going to be able to take K26 anymore, and unless they bring back Rival blasters always could. There's still a few Rival blasters I don't think I've done. I'd love to get around to doing them. I definitely want to get back to doing the assembly videos, because those are the videos that I get the most comments on, most positive comments. People, you know, saying thank you, and, you know, oh, took my blaster apart years ago and I was finally able to fix it because of this video. Thank you so much. And that makes it all worthwhile. Well, part of the plan was to go back through and take blasters that couldn't take K26 from the past and redo them with the out-of-dart springs that are specifically for them. Because generally, if a blaster can take K26, out-of-darts just sells a length of K26 for it. Their line of springs is for the blasters that can't take K26, that needed dedicated springs that nobody was making, or that they weren't making anymore. Worker used to make springs for pretty much every conceivable blaster. Rival has, the nice thing about Rival is it has the plunger volume to fire Mega XL quite well, and in a much smaller package. All of the Mega XL blasters were just comedically oversized, which, I mean, it's a huge oversized round. I can understand making the blasters huge and oversized, but it just wasn't really necessary. Alright. I have a knockout that fires it. There's a beautiful 3D printed kit that makes that work. My MM26 build is heavily inspired by ire. I jammed the piston pump into a stampede, hopefully with some master key magic. Oh, very cool. Check out the final condition by Sand Shark Labs. Oh, yeah, yeah. I remember that one. The half of the dart shotgun, the shell ejecting. That one, that was a cool blaster. It is crazy fun. So, where Flywheel will probably always have the advantage is in simplicity. AEBs are much more complicated, definitely more difficult for the hobby to develop because there's gearboxes and that's beyond a lot of our engineering, especially since you're not going to be able to, probably not going to be able to reliably 3D print the kind of gears you're going to need for an AEB. And so you have the advantage of simplicity. The wiring on a Strife is 3 wires. It's much simpler than an AEG or an HPA. The issue with a lot of HPA is while it is up and coming and it's cool, it is also still not allowed in a lot of places. And again, that's not necessarily the hobby choosing not to allow them. It's city ordinances. Anything that uses that kind of compressed air is classified as a firearm or what have you, and so they don't allow them in public places, and a lot of events don't allow them because they don't understand them well enough to be able to determine if it's safe or not, because that's a lot of power being stored, and that is inherently potentially dangerous. So flywheels will always have that place. They also are very easy to give a super high rate of fire. Things like the Vesper. Mostly what the flywheelers are going to have to do is they're going to have to go brushless. That is where the evolution of flywheels really goes. Band Blasters has proved, however, that you can make super high-powered flywheelers with brushed motors. It's just a matter of engineering and geometry and the right motors and the right wheels and the right cages. You can get 200 FPS out of a brushed blaster. So they still have a place. They are still competitive. So I don't think they're going anywhere. Yes, as Hicks has said, HPA is awesome. Well-built HPA is awesome. Poorly built HPA is a pipe bomb. Yeah. The real thing that's kind of fascinating about the innovation of our hobby is, while we could continue to develop blasters that hit harder and harder and harder and harder and harder, there isn't a whole lot of point. There aren't very many games that play above 200 FPS. There are games that play. We've got ones here that are uncapped. Bucket. We've got a club called, or an event called Bucket that is an uncapped event. You could bring a 600 FPS blaster if you could build one, and it would be allowed until they decided not to because too many people got hurt, maybe. But comp caps typically at 200. A lot of public events cap at 150. HVZs tend to cap at 120 or 130, and we've got that range really well covered. We don't need more power if you can't go above 200. So what you're trying to eke out is a little bit more accuracy. How do you get more accurate? How do you get a higher rate of fire? How do you get a more, how do you keep your blaster more reliable so it doesn't have any points of failure? There are parameters that we're dealing with. It's similar to like F1. There are rules that they are playing within that limit what they can do technologically. And so the thing with AEBs and HPA is there isn't really a need that they fulfill. There isn't some gap in the hobby that they fill that we don't already have with springers and flywheelers. AEBs are a hybrid. They're electronic, but they're a springer, so you get all the advantages that you get with springers, which tend to be more accurate in general. And so now you've got a high rate of fire, semi-auto, full auto, but accurate, which is really, really cool. HPA you can also make full auto if it's a little bit more technologically complicated, but they can be. But are they giving you something above and beyond what you can get with a good springer, or that you can get with an AEB, or that the higher end flywheelers can get? And so, what are you going for? Yeah, Rocket, Crewman Rocket is a huge F1 Formula One fan, and as a result, it's snuck into my For You pages, and I have no idea what's going on, but I love the memes. And I send them to Rocket, and he verifies whether or not it's true, and then gives me a basic rundown of what exactly is going on here. It's... I have no idea. Like I said, I don't know anything about it. I don't know how often they change the rules or how much they change the rules. You generally don't hear about major rule change controversies and things like baseball or basketball or football. You occasionally hear rule changes. I know there was something in baseball recently about balks being a serious thing, and basketball has changed, over the decades, and occasionally football changes things, but from what I understand, F1 changes a lot more, and that's probably because it's such a high-tech environment, and technology keeps coming out, whereas there's not a whole lot of technology involved in baseball, basketball, and football. Nowhere near the kind of technology you see in F1, where they're building a car from scratch. Yeah. The X-Shot M piston pump is just a refined BK2S. Internally they're practically identical. There's even parts that are swappable, and it changed a lot of things. It made it a lot more. One, it made it accessible, because before then the high-powered AEGs that you were seeing were well in excess of $100 or $200. And then along came the motorized piston pump at $70, and now anybody can get one. It does still suffer the issues that all AEBs have suffered, which is when they jam, they really jam. It's less of an issue with a lot of other, flywheelers can jam, and if you're not careful, that can be catastrophic. Springers can jam. Most of the high-end ones, since they don't have any kind of locks in them, it's less of a problem, because you just, prime it back and clear your jam with a rod, and off you go. The commercial ones that have locks built in that'll, lock the priming handle forward, if it's jammed but locked forward, that can be a real pain. The X-Shot long shot is notorious for this, and then people try forcing it and end up breaking their pusher, and then the blaster doesn't work at all. Yes, absolutely. X-Shot releasing the piston pump, having an affordable AEB on shelves again, because we haven't seen one since the Stampede, really. There were a few others. Obviously, there were some Dart Tag ones, and the Vulcan was technically an AEB, and There's been a smattering, but they were Nerf performance level. You know, you could get more out of a Stampede, but it took a lot of work. You know, you could get up, 150 or more if you put a half dart kit in it and upgraded the gears and switched up better batteries and all of that. Or now you could just go buy a piston pump and you're good. I would love to see more. I want to see Dart Zone get an AEB out there. I want to see Worker. I would love to see what Worker would do with an AEB. I would also love to see any of those companies get into brushless, to stay competitive in the flywheel market, because we've got things like the Diana and the Lightning and the Vesper that are now finally injection molded brushless blasters. Because as much as I love my Pew Pews, I sure wish it was injection molded. Same thing with my FTLs. I wish my FTLs were injection molded rather than 3D printed. The Stampede of Theseus, yes. The Crimson Vulcan is a very, very fine looking. The whole Crimson line, they were all nice looking. The one I don't have a Vulcan. I do have the Longshot and the Recon. I like it all. I love AGs. My first blaster was an AG, was a Stampede, so there's just something about the ka-chunk that soothes my soul. And I love brushless flywheelers, especially the well built ones. The Pew Pew still top of its game in many ways. The Diana and the Vesper and those have come a long way, but they still have teething problems. They're still relatively new technology to those areas, so. Train, yes. And a well-tuned Springer is just a thing of beauty. I have never truly mastered the art of tuning Springers, but I have a whole rack of really nice Springers that I enjoy. The Worker line, of course, is just, especially since they come in my colors. Solenoids also give that haptic feedback, which is a thing we see in most brushless. A lot of brushless blasters use a solenoid, and it gives you that, which is, again, very, very satisfying. Though we do see them in brush blasters as well, things like the Protean. Good choice. Good choice. I have pre-ordered the HUD for mine, and I look forward to that arriving. Apparently those arrived at Out of Darts, but the magazines haven't, and so I have to wait. Could probably ping them and go, hey, bring my HUD to the Springfield game. But I'm game to wait. I got more. I did the B car, put the Gavin Fuzzy B car in it. That was a simple matter. Got some more magazines, so I've got enough mags to run it at the event, and I'm gonna. Yeah. The shot blast stock is a good one for that. The SPF is nice. Again, I'd love it if it was injection molded, which is basically a Vesper. So, the only thing that the SPF and the FTL3 really have over the Vesper is the interface, which makes it really easy to adjust anything and everything with, having an actual little input display. The heads-up display, the HUD for the Vesper makes some of it easier, but not all of it. Same thing with the pew-pews, as they've got their little screen so you can change your burst, your rate of fire. You can have different rate of fire for full auto than semi-auto. You can do all of that. You can't do all of that with the Vesper yet. Can we still find ammo counters for custom builds? Maybe? I don't know if anyone is still selling those regularly. Where you might look is the Aliens cosplay community, because that's where the ammo counter in Ire was originally meant for pulse rifle builds, for cosplay. So they might still exist. You could also pull one out of a pulse rifle if you really wanted to spend lots of money to shred something beautiful. The Momentum is fabulous. It also lacks the interface to a degree. I still prefer my Vesper. I've got a Momentum, but I'll take my Vesper. There's just something to be said for an injection molded blaster. It's solid. It feels solid. The Momentum always, the grip, I was always worried that the Momentum's grip was going to break. It never has, and I've never seen one, but it just feels like it. Anyway, it is now 6 o'clock here, and I need food. I've sorted almost another 54 gallons of darts. I still have one full hamper, and I think one other tote that's going to need some sorting, because people just poured unsorted darts into the bins rather than into the hampers like they're supposed to. So, I'm going to call it here. Well, first I'm going to organize the Mega Darts. So we've got a few more questions. Any questions? Who has questions? Who wants to know stuff? Get some wisdom from your old Captain Xavier. Again, I would reach out to the Aliens cosplay community, because I'm sure they've got the diagram for the one that they use and the parts that are necessary. Like you said, it's not complicated. The one that's in Ire isn't a sensor. It has a physical switch, because it wasn't intended for a blaster that actually fired. It was meant for purely cosplay, so it just needed something to trigger it. And since I put it in a Stampede, the trigger is just the reciprocation. Hits the switch. So every time the blaster fires, it hits the switch and decrements the counter, and it works beautifully. I am still enjoying it. The slowdown was due to other things. It wasn't a lack of joy in the hobby. I still love the hobby. I've just got other things that I'm dealing with. It isn't a matter of burnout, for the most part. So I am hoping to start ramping up videos again. I know I've had far fewer videos, because I haven't been out here working on stuff, so I haven't had anything to film. I do need, I keep saying this, I've been saying it for years, I need to get better at filming events, because that is one of the best ways for us to advertise our hobby is to actually show the hobby in action, show the events, show people playing the game, show people having fun, and so people can see that, oh, these events happen. There's these big Nerf battles where 80 people get together in a park and do these organized Nerf battles. I want to get in on that. Where can I find it? So there really isn't complex lore behind Ire. Well, actually, there was some that ended up getting created as part of Afterworlds. But for the most part, I just wanted a blaster that was really good for HVZ. And Stampede was good on that because it was magazine fed, it was full auto, but it had a slow enough rate of fire that you could control it and not waste too much ammo. And then I put a Titan tank on it so I could fire anything if I wanted to fire rockets or shotgun or whatever. I could. So, but there does exist lore within Afterworlds that just kind of got created as a result of the Afterworlds mechanic and kind of the background of Captain Xavier within Afterworlds. Because originally it was a player character and then became an NPC, but the lore remained, really. Though I haven't been back to Afterworlds in quite some time now. I would love to get back to Afterworlds this year. I'll have to see if Udo needs any NPCs. Hopefully different than before. I'm not sure I'd want to play Captain Xavier at Afterworlds again. I think I'd rather play something different. Maybe something goofier, less overpowered. That was kind of the downside of playing Captain Xavier as an NPC, is our characters were so ridiculously OP. But that was what Udo was looking for. That's what he needed. He needed really OP NPCs. And so he turned to us, but we will see. All right. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you got something out of this. Of just the ASMR of me sorting darts. I will probably save the last of the darts I have to sort until next Friday and do it again. So, take care.